Alright everybody, today I'm going to be cleaning some engine parts. This is the rocker shafts and the valve covers and the push rods for the Buick. Got me a mix of hot purple power water, although I'm guessing hot probably won't matter because it's about 60 degrees today, so it'll probably cool off before long. But I'm going to soak all this in purple power and stuff and get it clean. Clean the push rods and blow through the holes to the air nozzle to make sure that the oiling holes ain't plugged. And then get ready to put the push or the rocker arms back on the engine, well, with the push rods, of course. And running some mail. Mailman just drove by. But yeah, do all that and just make more progress on this engine, hoping to get it running well before Christmas. So yep, I'll come back to you. Alright, so I would definitely recommend gloves for doing this, because, I mean, purple power, it is a chemical. And ideally, I used to work in a machine shop when I was a teenager, and we had a dishwasher vat that you could put all this in. It was hot and had solvent and soap and worked really well. But those are expensive, and they take like 240 volt, so I obviously don't have one. But that would be ideal. But you want to, if you're going to use purple power to clean engine parts or anything for that matter, it's best to mix it. You can use it full strength, but you better be careful. When I worked at the machine shop, there was one kid that worked there in the morning while I was in school, and then after school I would show up, and he had stuck an aluminum intake into a 5-gallon bucket of purple power, and the boss told me to clean it because, you know, assuming it was done. Well, I took it out and it was all white, and when aluminum rusts, it turns white. People tell you aluminum doesn't rust. That's not true. Aluminum rusts, it just turns white. And it got all pitted and everything. The purple power had eaten away at the aluminum in the 7 or 8 hours it was there. And we ended up having to find a new intake because, you know, you can't give that back to the customer, you know, because it didn't come in that way. It was just oily and stuff, but it wasn't rusty, corroded, and just nasty. But yeah, so aluminum does rust, and purple power is caustic. So best to use it diluted. And if you're going to use on aluminum, don't just let it sit in there for 7 or 8 hours or overnight or anything like that. But purple power works good. Just use gloves, and I'll get after it and show you guys some of the results. I figured I'd give you guys a before and after of a dirty push rod as well. Find a good background maybe. You can see all the, maybe you can see all the grime and stuff on there. Yeah, like right there. And further down. You definitely want to look through that hole and make sure it's clear, because that affects the oiling of the rocker arm. But these ones also have a dot on them, and either I mixed up when I put them in. I got them in the order for the cylinder, but I may have just flopped them in the hole on my little stand there. And I don't know if, so far, more of these dots, I think, no, more of these dots have been pointing towards the bottom. So I think maybe that's how they go. A couple of them have pointed towards the top, but I'll figure that out. But yeah, this is before. And there's a clean push rod. There's a dot I was telling you all about. I just soak them in there for a few minutes, get the grime and stuff and the old oil all loose, and then so far I've just been blowing through it with a can of brake clean, just with the nozzle. But I'll blow through it with compressed air before I put them in there. All right, everybody. Well, there's the finished result. Let me... I blew through them with brake clean, and I actually looked down the hole against that light there. They're all pretty clean, so I'm not going to worry about the compressed air. But as for the dot, there's a pretty fair amount of dots up and dots down. So I'm probably, unless I just make a choice and all dots up or all dots down, or I'll just put them back on the way that they are here with the assumption that I stuck them in the same way. So yeah, I'll figure that out. Now to do the Valvetrain, or the rest of the Valvetrain. Alright everybody, got the rest of the Valvetrain clean. Push rods, valve covers. I wish I had a dishwasher vat, but I don't. And as for the push rods, I'm just going to go with the assumption that the way I stuck them in there is the way they came out of the car. That's probably a safe bet. So I'm going to do that. Going to kind of pre-lube everything with Lubriplate 105. Do it on the tips of the push rods, on the rocker arms, and on the tips of the valves. Just give everything kind of a lubricated start, because I'm probably going to be cranking it without the spark plugs, just making sure that oil's getting up there. And so I'm going to do that, and I'll take you guys out there and show some of that. So I'll come back. Alright everybody, we're back at the car here. Got the Valvetrain push rods. Luckily I had the forethought when I took them apart to kind of label them. That one there says 1F, so that's the front of cylinder. That's the front for cylinder 1, which is on that side. So this Lubriplate. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. Do forgive my fingers getting in the way. Oh my goodness, I never even opened it. I'll be back. There, it's open now. It's leaking out the bottom. I thought I had it open, but I guess a rodent or just the bottle being old must have made the bottom break out. Once again, forgive my fingers. But I'm just going to coat the tips of the valves. As such, I kneaded the bottle around. It's an old bottle. I've had it a while. Long enough that I forgot I never opened it. Oh, that's a reach. So do that. Do the same to the other side. Then I'll have to exercise some caution when sticking the push rods in, because I'll have to make sure that the push rods actually go into the lifters, because I don't want those just sitting anywhere. As you can see, I got cylinder 1 in the front, so I'll start with this side first. And you can kind of tell when you get the push rod in the lifters, because if it's not in the lifter, it won't spin very well. So you'll kind of, if you just feel carefully, you'll know. So cylinder 1. Make sure I didn't pick up any dirt or anything from being in the box. Then I'll just put a little bit of the Lubriplate on the end. And see if I can get to the side of the car here so I can kind of see down the hole. Oh yeah. I'll just kind of stick it down in there. And you can kind of see in the hole. Well, I can see that it is in there, and there's no play right now. The lifters are totally out of oil. But I'm going to do that 15 more times, and I'll come back. Okay, everybody. I got the push rods in. One thing you can do to help, at least it partially helps. So you got them in groups of 2. One right next to the other. Before you stick them in, put a light down one of the empty holes, and you can see the first one that you want to aim for. Then when you want to do the second one, that one's too far away to do it, but you can shine your light at just the right angle. You can't see it on the camera, but with your own eyes, you can shine your light at just the right angle and guide the push rod in. Now, if you stick a push rod in and you let go, and you think it's in there, but it's cocked in the hole like that, or like that, you know, and it's not just resting like this, it's not in the lifter. It's probably wedged up on the casting somewhere because you missed the lifter. So fix that. When you're in there, it should spin freely, and it should just rest against the lowest side of the hole. If it doesn't rest and it binds up, you're not in the lifter. So yeah, that's that. Got all 16 in. Now for the rocker shafts. Alright everybody, the rocker shafts are on. The Buicks don't have a rocker adjustment, so you just tighten them down slowly. Probably just starting from the center and working out. All the while being sure that all of the push rods end up in their respective holes and that you don't bend a push rod. So just, if you're doing this, just take your time. Just keep an eye on everything. And then once it's all tight, do your final torque. And I'll figure out what that is here in a minute. But I'm pretty sure these are just 3/8 head bolts. So go a little bit, just a little bit at a time. That's all you got to do. Just keeping an eye on everything. I'll come back. Alright everybody, I've got them snugged up. They torque to 25 foot-pounds. I'll do that here in a second. As you're tightening them down, you'll hear some popping. You're not going to be able to line up 8 push rods at a time by yourself when you have to tighten 4 bolts at the same time. Everything will kind of line itself up. As it's tightening, you might hear some popping or something. That popping is just the push rods seating into their little ball in the rocker arm. See, like I can't spin that run right now because it's got pressure on it, but most of them I can spin. That one's a little loose, but that one I can spin. See, that one there must be on a compression stroke right now. That one I can spin. That one I can spin, or that one I can't spin. But they should be seating into their ball. And what I did is I spun the whole engine over by hand at least twice. And I watched everything and made sure that all the rockers are moving up and down. So when you're doing Valvetrain work, that's kind of very critical that you want to be able to spin the engine over. I just grabbed the balancer with my hands. And as I was spinning it, I kept hearing that popping, or I would hear that popping, and it would be the lifters seating into the, or the push rods seating into the rockers, because you can't really control it all. You just got to kind of get it close and then tighten them down, and they'll go where they need to go. I don't know how not having hydraulic pressure in the lifters is going to affect this. I'm going to pour oil down there and just kind of get everything lubricated. And when I go to start it, I'm going to have the spark plugs out, and I'm just going to crank it and crank and crank as it builds. I'll crank it with the valve covers off to make sure oil's getting everywhere it needs to go. And then I'll put the spark plugs in and fire it up and hope for the best. But yeah, if something's not right, this motor's going to let me know. So I'm going to torque them down and I'll come back. Okay, I've got them torqued down. TA Performance says they torque to 25 foot-pounds. I just started with a center, one of the center ones, and went to the next one, then the next one, and then the next one. There's only 4. And then I retorque them at 25. Anything that kind of goes in a pattern, I like to retorque them starting with the first one you start with, because a lot of times that one will end up loose. And I might just do that 2, 3, 4 times, and just until I see all the bolts not move. Because the bolts that are torqued, that torque wrench is going to click, and then anything that's still loose, whether it's stretched or if there was some gunk in the threads and it just didn't take the first time, or a lot of times just because of the way it's a pattern, tightening all the others just makes the first one loose again. So I just like to torque them multiple times. I torque the cylinder heads like twice after I reach the full torque, and I'll torque them again after I run it. I torqued the intake 3 times, and it's just good because, you know, just the way it works, the first one starts off, the first one you start off with ends up loose again. So I torqued all these. I know the engine spins over. I wasn't that far off, so I'm probably good there. So yeah, that's the Valvetrain on, and I'm going to pour some oil on all this too to keep it from rusting. And yeah, I might spin it over again one more time off camera, but that is the Valvetrain installed. Okay, I just want to give everything a quick spray of oil to try and prevent it from rusting. So let's see if I can do this on video. This should be clean 1030. Pretty sure it's clean. Let's pay attention to the springs. And if you get oil or you don't intend to get oil, that's okay. That's what they invented brake clean for. Well, let me not spill my beer. See if I can maneuver to the other side of the trailer without killing myself. It's the one downside to working on a trailer. The car takes up all the room. I'm just glad to have this thing home where I can work on it. See if maybe just spraying some oil on some components will prevent a little flash rusting. 'Cause it is flash rusting a little, but it ain't as bad as it could be, especially with the rain we've had. I'll probably just call that good. Now, I should probably clean up the valve cover hardware, and then I'll stick the valve covers on just to keep moisture and bugs out of there. But yep, thanks for watching, everybody. Alright everybody, just wanted to show you guys real quick what it looked like with the valve covers on. I'm cleaning the bolts, soaking them in purple power, but starting to look like an engine, and more every day. Thanks for watching.